I told you so, and I don't want it to sound arrogant. And with the motto, I know everything, I can definitely counter some of the hate comments with that. Also, XRP news. What's the situation with the XRP reserves? There's news on that and a bit more. Also, the economic data. What's important right now? This week, we have a little something special. And lastly, I might also have a secret tip for you. So, I would stick around. It's going to get exciting. We'll see each other after the intro. But before we dive in, a big thank you. Guys, what a breakdown is this? Almost 9,000 views on the video yesterday. And not even after a day, 540 likes. It's insane. It brings me immense joy to provide you with the content that you clearly enjoy. So even if you like this video, if you want to support my work, my hours of research, it's completely free. Just click down there and leave a like. And then it beautifully boosts the whole algorithm. And if you're new here, and maybe that your first video is, if you're looking for a channel that delivers the most important crypto news daily, based on facts, neutral, on point, and without hype, then welcome. You can also become an uptrender. Just leave a free subscription here, activate the bell so you don't miss any important information. And now let's dive in. So let's start off briefly with the economic news. What numbers are going to be important this week? And there's a little special thing because tomorrow at 4 p.m. and also on Wednesday at 4 p.m., Powell will be talking about something. What is it? I don't, but we should definitely keep an eye on that. Maybe he'll say something about interest rates, or perhaps regarding tariffs and a new direction. Now let's just hope for the best. However, it will also be exciting between these two speeches because at 2:30 p.m. on Wednesday, there will be the Consumer Price Index. Looking back at January, based on the numbers from December, everything was pretty much as expected. Now it's about the interest rate direction. Still, an increase of 0.2 percentage points. Now, if the analyses are wrong and we should drop below that 2.9%, then that would actually be positive because the US Federal Reserve could then more easily make possible adjustments to the key interest rate. And of course, those are risk assets like Bitcoin and especially the altcoins. Maybe just wait a bit in relaxation mode. But what if it goes the other way? And the 2.9%, as the assumption is, if it stays or even increases for the fourth month in a row, then it's really questionable whether there will actually be an interest rate cut in March. Next, we have the Producer Price Index on Thursday at 2:30 p.m. We shouldn't forget that since September, producer prices have nearly doubled compared to last year. If this value is significantly below the experts' forecast and also lower than in December, then that could be quite positive for stocks and logically for the crypto market as well. And last but not least, on Friday at 2:30 p.m., there will be the retail sales figures, and that's always a pretty strong indicator of how generous US households are. Last month, we were at plus 0.4%, and now they're expecting a slight decrease to 0.3%. If the experts' expectations are exceeded here, meaning there's more generosity out there, then that could definitely trigger a bullish market reaction. But now let's move directly to Bitcoin. And I want to quickly catch you up on what I've been saying all along. The institutions are in the market, and you can see that with the economic data, that's what you should pay attention to now. And here you can see we had the ETF approval, and boom, it went up, and then we pretty much just moved sideways. Movement until the US elections on the 5th November says price goes up, and it feels like since the 5th. Since November, we've been stuck in this range, let's say strictly speaking, between 90,000 and 105,000. Okay, now, let's say there's a bit of wiggle room in between, but these are exactly those exhausting phases. And that's where the market makers make their money. But I can even prove to you in a shorter time frame, and I'm talking about yesterday, to prove to you that I was right. However, we should also keep an eye on the relationship between the Bitcoin index and the US dollar index. And if you take a look at this historically, when the dollar has lost a lot of volume, there was a big pump in Bitcoin. Now we just have the small challenge that the dollar is quite strong. You can see that here. So, at first people thought there would be a pullback, but no, it still went down. You can also see that the whole market is just manipulated because Bitcoin has also gained some good momentum here. But now we just have to wait and see what the dollar is up to. So is it maybe going into a downtrend here? Or is it just starting up again and we should definitely keep an eye on it going up? I'm going to keep bringing this up in the future, and now let's move on to XRP. You can see here we've clearly broken through this downtrend, and now we're just moving sideways. Now it's getting really interesting because if this level here, well, that's my assumption. This is the last peak that has been formed. If we manage to break through this sustainably, it was also tested here, but there was a rejection. So we see several touches here. Here, for example, it went down. There was the rejection, but then it still went down further. Here we are also in the range. So you can see many touch points on the line here. And now we just have to wait and see if we can sustainably move up from here, because then it gets interesting. But it could also be that a downtrend settles in again here, and this was just a brief breather. And it continues to go down. And now I'll briefly get to this proof that I can provide you with, or rather, I could provide. And if you're up for it, I'm going to move the screen here so you can see something. Then you can just check it out by watching the video from yesterday. If you haven't seen that yet, feel free to click in here. Because I said yesterday, guys, down there, there's a lot of liquidity, and what a surprise it was picked up again, even tested twice. And now we shouldn't forget at this point, the big question is whether we can push through to the top here, because there's not much up there right now, or if this is just another fake out. And many are currently jumping in long, but they might still pick it up down here again. So this is also this game, and it can't be explained logically. And there it is now. XRP use case or not, and a long-term perspective. If you say today, yeah, okay, I'm speculating that this thing will eventually hit $10 or something. By the way, we'll get to the US reserve soon, because that's also an important point that I hadn't really considered. Definitely here. The topic is that the market makers are playing their game completely wild. If we take a look at Bitcoin here as well, excluding all long-term holders for a moment, but if you're actively trading, it's wild. If you look at the last 3 days here, down here, it's already lighting up quite a bit. Of course, you could say, okay, let's take a look at the 2-week view. Maybe we'll see more there. Then you could also say, okay, up here, there's definitely some volume present. But the big question is, this almost aligns with an XRP chart. So how is it going to continue from here, and where is the price being deliberately pushed down? So for trading, this is pure gold right now, and feel free to correct me if you think differently, but you could see it yesterday. From the video, I said it, and this isn't some crystal ball prediction. The market went, or rather, the price went straight there. So, as I said, feel free to write in the comments whether you agree with me, or if you think it was just luck. Now I've included something else here, and that's altfins. I'm not going to talk about it much. I like using this tool. Those who watch the videos more often will know it too. Feel free to check it out down below. Here's the link to it. You can just test it for free if you're interested in securing the tool. I met the founder last year in Barcelona and managed to get a 50% deal for the community. Definitely, you can have the corresponding indicators displayed in advance. So let's talk about the decisive RSIs. Looking at the chart, if you check the RSI, there's definitely potential with XRP, no doubt about it. But as I said, there's market manipulation going on here. However, I find this tool very, very interesting, even for other tokens and coins. You can see that everything is represented here, and then there's the corresponding indicator. It's an AI tool, so again, there's no guarantee that it works, but you can see bullish or neutral areas here. I personally think it's a great opportunity, so feel free to check it out. Just take a look in the description. By the way, just to mention it here again. So there are definitely various ways where you can say, I can get active in trading, even if you don't have significant experience. I explained it with BingX, where a bot runs automatically. There's just the risk that the bot doesn't adapt, market movements. If you're interested in copying professional traders for free, then you can check it out. I've launched VIP trading. All you need is a BingX account. You can also see the instructions down in the description. And then you have the option to follow 2 professional traders, and they share their signals in the Telegram group. And you can trade it afterwards. Of course, everything comes with its own risks. Do your own research, and so on. But I have to say, those guys really know what they're doing. So, you can also see the results in the group, and they're really impressive. So, all in all, they managed to grow a 4K account to $30,000 in just 2 months. So, that's definitely a statement. So, as I said, if you're interested in that, if you just want to read along in the group, everything is completely free for free, just for the community, to be honest. I receive a portion of the fees that are applied to the trades, so that's communicated very transparently. But feel free to check it out. Take a look in the description. What I want to show you here. And before we get to XRP, let's talk about this possible tip that I have. I always keep an eye on the narrative. So, anyone who's been browsing YouTube lately will notice that there's a lot of talk about real-world assets and such. What is also exciting is who might have been so smart. And now, those who didn't sell all their AI tokens and memes and everything else in a blind panic are noticing that this market is suddenly picking up again. Yes, it is a 24-hour view, but there's definitely a certain feeling that you could say, yeah, something is happening there. So suddenly the AI agents are relatively up and meme coins are relatively high. But to be honest, the 24-hour view doesn't really interest me that much right now. The 7-day view is consistently red. Yeah, well, there were also tariffs and stuff. The 30-day view is also pretty thin. And then it gets interesting on the 90-day view. Suddenly, real-world assets are quite high up there. And I want to touch on different areas now because RWA, as harsh as it sounds, undo and all that, I find it kind of boring again, since it's all mainstream now. And what are they trying to achieve with that? Now let's pull everyone in big on the board. Sure, because suddenly everyone is talking about it. Now we should probably keep an eye on that. Okay, the topic of AI we've seen in the last 24 hours hasn't performed too badly. And where no one is really talking about it for weeks and months now is the gaming sector. And those who have been following me for a while know that I'm not really a fan of saying I'm going to bet on this one game or this one AI token. Of course, I prefer a mix. However, infrastructure is just much more appealing to me personally. Always much prefer. So take a look at BitNSO, for example. That's the infrastructure for, quite a few projects. And that's why there's also quite a bit of movement there. So you can just take a look at the chart progression. And I found something that I find quite interesting. And we're talking about a complete ecosystem here. A layer 2 blockchain on Bitcoin. Okay, why now? Exactly, that is explained here relatively simply. So on one hand, the substance, the stability of Bitcoin, also of course the security, but combined with the flexibility of EVM chains, like Ethereum. Okay, that's already a pretty exciting combination. And what's really interesting here is that we're talking about an ecosystem in the area of gaming and AI as the focus. And you can take a look here. So there's currently a pre-sale. Of course, please be aware of that. The pre-sale is always the biggest risk of all. However, this can definitely have potential. So you can also see the roadmap where a lot can be checked off. Also, the tokenomics, as far as I've seen, I wouldn't say are uninteresting. I think they're quite healthily structured, also regarding the advisor areas and especially the team. The locking period is just a bit short for me, but I'll get to that in a moment. So that doesn't necessarily have to mean anything. But also the pre-sale volume is 15%, the ecosystem then 40%. So that's neatly divided. There's a treasury for that. All in all, doesn't look too bad right now. And I can also show you that in detail here, because when you look at the ecosystem, I should mention right away, I'm not that deep into the gaming area. But even there, the range is quite large in terms of what's represented. And you can completely click through here. And you can also completely click through here. Moreover, we shouldn't forget that there is already a community for each of these projects. If they promote a platform now, it can definitely trigger a corresponding movement. If we take a look at AI here, for example, 01 Labs immediately caught my eye, and I've talked about them quite a bit, so they are also in on it. It can definitely be quite interesting. What I've put a special focus on now is the tokenomics, because I personally always find that very important. How is the potential laid out there? Does it have all the potential, or do we need to go in with a bit of a gut feeling? So you can see here with the team, so that's 10% of the tokens for the team, and we're talking about a 6-month cliff. Yeah, okay. So I also know projects that have a lockup period of 2 years, but that doesn't necessarily have to mean anything. I can definitely imagine that with such an infrastructure, a team thinks long-term. All right, with the investors, we also have the 10% included. We have 3% for advisors here, and they also have the 6-month cliff. That might be a small risk now, but it's only 3% that went to the advisors. But there could definitely be some selling pressure. What's quite interesting is that in the pre-sale, I can't read anything here about any vesting or any locking. Then it definitely gets interesting because the pre-sale price is currently, we're talking about around 25 regarding the listing price. So as I said, this is not investment advice at this point. I would still rather focus on getting into projects long-term, but the whole thing already looks quite interesting in its basic structure, which I also want to highlight positively. Once that, this also concerns the X account, so there's nothing that's been swept under the rug here. Or if you take a look here, also the call numbers, that's still all in a reasonable range, and of course, that can still grow. So, as I said, the biggest risk is if you get into a project too early. That could work out, but if it does, then there could also be massive returns. So I might add it to my watch list and take a closer look at all those parameters in detail. Feel free to write in the description if you're interested so I can take a closer look at it. And now let's move on directly to XRP. So there was an article saying that the US reserves only come into play if the XRP price is 5. I told myself, okay, let's read a bit further. So it's a leading lawyer who shared all of this. And then you take a look and find nothing. Stupid. So I dug a little deeper. And it actually makes a bit of sense because the more market cap there is, the more stable the price. Now, aside from the fact that Ripple still holds about 42% of all tokens, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. However, if we are talking about a price of $5 per XRP, then we should consider roundabout, or a market cap. It's around $300 billion. If you compare that to what the USA currently holds in reserves, we are talking about around 13,000 tons of gold, which is around 800 billion. US dollars, then US dollars as fiat reserves, of course. Since it's the global reserve currency, we also have special drawing rights, government bonds, and other currencies. And then it could be quite interesting for central banks to say, if XRP reaches that price, yes, we're including XRP in this whole area. A little counterpoint. At this point is still the ongoing proceedings with the SEC. So that could in turn have consequences. I don't really believe that such reserves can come about in the short term anyway. Well, you can see that just with Bitcoin. But we should just note that the SEC lawsuit is likely nothing will happen before April. That was the last update. That Atkins is supposed to come into power. And only when he is there can a decision at the earliest be made. So that's the current status, at least. My level of knowledge, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. So for now, we just have to wait and see. There are also reports that Trump is now more positively inclined towards Solana and Ripple than, for example, Bitcoin. Why? Because he obviously wants to strengthen US-based companies. That would be another plus point for XRP. Because once this lawsuit is settled, we will definitely have regulatory clarity. Now, I want to quickly touch on something else in the article where I notice again that there are a few hype truths going around, especially with the news that Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse has joined Donald Trump's cryptocurrency advisory board. So it kind of sounds like he's already on board. Now I have here a current article. It's about 7 hours old or so. Pulled it up, and here it says, possible involvement. What is true from both sides? I don't want to say that there's more truth in one report than in the other. However, I haven't heard anything yet that he is already set in stone. Of course, Donald Trump has expressed his sympathy for it. It's kind of obvious, similar to what happened with Atkins. One can realistically assume that Brad Garlinghouse will have a corresponding interest in being involved. The whole thing is probably not set in stone yet. Just a quick look at Ethereum, because it's quite important for the potential altcoin season that could be coming up. So here you can really feel the last setback. Like almost all currencies, Ethereum hasn't really weathered the storm that well. Here too, there has been more of a downtrend as we zoom in a bit closer and spread this out. Yes, we'll have to wait and see how this goes. So it's not looking great if we just leave it at that, but we'll have to wait and see, because the most important zone is probably this area here. As long as we don't drop below it, somewhere around 24.33 plus or minus. As long as we hold this value here, this level, it shouldn't get too bad. So here, you can see, for example, this is again the topic of chart metrics. Here we had our penalty box, a massive setback down here, and exactly at the same value. We had the testing here and also the rejection. So one can pretty quickly assume that this threshold of 21.42 won't roughly be dropped below. If that were to happen, it wouldn't be great. Here we also had another touch in there. So yes, we'll have to wait and see, but a real blooming of Ethereum. We're still waiting, but it can also happen relatively quickly. And now it's your turn. Feel free to write in the comments what your opinion is on the XRP reserves and the possible gaming narrative that could take off. I'm really curious. If you liked the video, it would be super nice of you to leave a like. It's completely free and it really helps boost the algorithm. Good. In conclusion, I can give you the tip that I took a detailed look at Ondo last week. And the potential is really huge. Maybe you can still pull out a few X's there. This is not investment advice. Feel free to check out all the info in the video. We'll see each other tomorrow for the next update. Until then, all the best. Ciao.